What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here. Today, coming to you with a special video. I've been working on some March Madness data, a tool projecting out the bracket that I want to show you guys that maybe you'll have some interest in. First and foremost, it is available in the Discord. That's $10 a week, $30 for a month. And basically, the goal of this is to project every potential game in the field and give you an actual point spread or a total for the game. A lot of March Madness pools you'll see that go through percent chance of advancing, percent chance to win are based on these like bracket matrices, which comes down to a 16 seed wins this percentage at the time, and it's based on historical data, and it's not actually based on the spreads and totals of the individual games that are being played. So this is more accurate. And I think it's a good way to look at the tournament and gives you some extra context. So I'm going to share my screen and just hopefully walk you through it. There's a bunch of different pages, and I'll try to explain how I think the best way to use it is. It'll be available in a Google Sheet. And if you have suggestions, this is just the first run of it. My strength is not organizing these things. If you think there's something that should be added or a better way to organize this, please let me know. That feedback would be awesome. So the first tab at the bottom is basically homepage. It's going to have all the major stat breakdowns for these potential games. And I used an old bracket, a bracket projection from back in February. So please don't rake me over the coals for seeing teams that aren't even going to be in the field right now. For example, like Nebraska was in this bracket projection. This is not what I'm projecting for the tournament. This was just an example bracket I chose to use to get the model set up. So first of all, it's going to have your matchups in this one. Obviously, we're projecting Auburn-Bryant as the 116 matchup in this particular quadrant. The stats, possessions, that's just what they average per game. Tempo is their rank in possessions per game. Offensive efficiency, that's where they rank offensively. Same thing for defense. Effective field goal percentage, that's how well they shoot the ball. 2-point percent, that's how well they shoot it inside. How well they defend inside next to that. 3-point per attempt, that is just a 3-point rate stat, how often they're shooting threes. It is adjusted for pace. If you're a really slow team, that's going to be adjusted how often you're shooting threes for your pace. Then 3-point percent, 3-point D, total rebounds, offensive rebounds, and defensive rebounds, the ranks, free throw percentage, turnovers committed, turnovers forced, fouls committed, fouls generated, average height. This is adjusted for minutes played, and then strength of schedule. I left the spread in total open because this is where I plan on putting what the actual spread is. This on the very far right, the round one projection, is what my model has the projected spreads and totals for the game rounded to 1 decimal place. So this is kind of homepage for all of your data and information on the individual games. Next up in the advanced percentage, that's just how often they're going to advance based on those projections, based on those spreads and totals. I'm going to remove myself so you can see this clearly. So it gives you a round by round chance of advancing for these individual games. And obviously in this particular one, we had Houston as the 2 seed, Auburn as the 1 in the projection. So their percents of winning the championship are lower than maybe they otherwise would be if you go down a little bit. Like Duke, based on where they're seated, is much higher. So this is an interesting way to pick upsets. I think as you go through the tournament, people always want to find like a trendy upset for round one. Common narratives are, okay, let's find the 5-12 or the 12-5 upset, when in reality, that might not be something we want to do. For example, the 5-12 upset in the first round, McNeese State versus Missouri in this top quadrant, doesn't actually appear to be something that's very secure. McNeese only has a 23% chance of winning based on the projected spread for that game should that matchup occur. However, if you go a round further and you have Missouri playing Arizona, that upset is a lot more likely, the 5 over the 4 in that one. So this is another sort of homepage type where you can contextualize all the data for these individual teams. And from here, I built out an individual tab for each team so you can go round by round and see the actual projected spreads and totals for these. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Then I'll explain what's on the bottom. Where is this? There we go. All right. So it's round by round. Auburn would be about a 26 point favorite over Bryant. The win percentages are based on historical data. So anytime there's this 26-point favorite, that team has a 99% chance of winning. Then I put the round 32. That's just the chance they advance for this round. Obviously, it's super simple. There's only one game. It gets a little more complicated as we get to all of the subsequent rounds. For Auburn, obviously, they have a chance to either face Oregon or Baylor in this particular run out of the tournament. They would be a 12-point favorite over Oregon. They would be a 10-point favorite over Baylor based on current data on a neutral court. However, there is a little bit of nuance here. Based on that first matchup, they would have a 48% chance to face Oregon, a 52% chance to face Baylor. So when you round all of that together and you consider, okay, they're a 26-point favorite in round one over Bryant, nearly 99%. They're about an 88% chance of winning over Oregon, 83% over Baylor. You get about an 85% chance, 84.5 to be exact, of this team to advance to the Sweet 16. And if you go and you look at the next tab over, we'll skip Bryant and we'll go to the Oregon tab. It's the exact same thing here. They're a 1-point underdog to Baylor. They have a 48% chance of advancing. You head over to the second round. You have the projected spread total, the points they're projected to score, and then the opponent percentage. Again, that's just the percent chance that they will actually face this opponent in this round. So in round two, 99% chance to face Auburn, 1% chance to face Bryant. Because they would end up being a 12-point underdog to this Auburn team, you end up with a 6% chance of making the Sweet 16 if you're Oregon. And you can play this out for every single round for these teams. We have the Sweet 16, all the potential opponents they would face if the bracket fell this way, Elite Eight and Final Four. For a couple of these teams, as soon as it fell below, like a 0.5%, I stopped projecting forward. So Oregon, you can tell it's basically a 0% chance to win the championship. But if you go to like a random 4 seed, this is going to go all the way to the championship round. Arizona in this particular run out has a 0.8% chance. But I think it's cool. You can actually look through your bracket and find the projected spreads and totals for each individual game in the bracket if the game were to occur. So I found this very useful in the past. This is a tool I like to use a lot. I haven't actually built it out like this before, so I'm hoping people like it and find it interesting. The percent chance to advance is always going to be highlighted in yellow at the bottom of each round. I made this little table for each individual team if you want to see it clearly and concisely in one place. And then again, if you want to see them all together, back to this advanced percent tab, this is where you get the whole bracket projected all in one place. Last thing I plan to add, a little bit of analysis. I'm not sure the best way to format this. Basically, I've been using a running Google Doc, but instead of making you click a separate link to go somewhere else, I think I'm just going to take a screenshot and paste it over. The main things I want to put in this are record, quad 1, 2, and 3, but then contextualize a little bit. Obviously, every quad 1 game is not the same. For example, Auburn has played 20 quad 1 games, but they've played 11 in the top 25. Maybe you're more interested in how they did in those games. So including that record, I think, makes some sense. Contextualizing what they did, where, and how it happened is something else I'd like to put in these. Auburn doesn't have as much news within that data, but for example, a team like Iowa State, who's 3-5 against the top 25, you might want to put into the notes that they lost one of their games because Caleb Love hit a 67-foot half-court shot that drove the game to overtime. They would have had an extra win there. Injuries, Janai Broome is actually just playing through an injury, so I included him for the example of this exercise. Auburn's probably a bad team to include notes for because they're the best team in the country, but plan to put things in here where these teams are strong, where they're weak, how they play, what they've shown us in the past, what are the biggest concerns that teams have, and how can they play that might be a path to get them forward. And then just talk about the players, where they rank statistically within the conference. So Janai Broome, the #1 most efficient player in the SEC, their height in parentheses, what he does well. So he's a top 50 rebounder in the country. He's 34th in block percentage nationally. Chad Baker-Mazara, he's 10th in overall efficiency in the SEC. A 6'7" wing, shoots 37.8% from three. If there's specific things you'd like to see there, let me know. That would be awesome as well. But plan to include some written analysis for all of these teams as we get forward to the tournament as well. Would like to include a little betting blurb. You guys will get all of that content anyway, filming individual videos. We'll have a video for the bracket. I'll fill one out entirely and talk about a lot of this stuff. Probably use this tool quite a bit. And also, we'll have a betting video for all of the individual games in round 1 and all the subsequent rounds. One last thing I forgot to include. So there's this overall percent chance for each round. Right now I'm hovering over the round 2 for Auburn, 84.5% chance to advance. Actually, let's go to Oregon because this is more interesting. Their overall percent chance to hit the Sweet 16 is 6% if they were to play Baylor in round 1 and then face the winner of Auburn-Bryant. If you want, let's say you picked the Bryant upset in round 1. I don't know why you would do this, but if you did, maybe you'd like to know, okay, what is the difference in percent chance of advancing for Oregon if they face Bryant versus Auburn? If Auburn wins their matchup, you have this right here, the individual 5.76% chance of advancing to the Sweet 16. However, if Bryant did hit that upset, Oregon would then have a 42.7% chance to advance to the Sweet 16. That factors in the round 1 matchup where they're only a 48% chance to win, and then being a 13-point favorite over Bryant. So these always factor in the subsequent round or the previous rounds, what their percent chance was to get to an individual spot, and then the game they're playing. This works through the whole way throughout the tournament, as you can see in these columns across the board. But I think that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out to me on Twitter if you have anything else. I'm at Matt_Gajewski. We're going to put this example in the Discord for now, and we'll probably stay up very late on Sunday night, but we'll have this out as soon as possible once the bracket is released. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you soon. Hope you enjoy this.